I know that the community, and I know that you speak at the MIT Chief Data Officer Symposium, Information Quality Symposium, and you bring a lot of that valid data that you've interviewed with CDOs to the community. So on behalf of all the groups, we thank you for that. When we look at the roles and responsibilities of the CDO, which you've obviously had a hand in helping your organizations at hand in helping define, you probably most likely personally as well, both from a private and public point of view. What qualifications and or skills have you seen the role of the CDO need, and is that changing as you now point to the fact of organizations moving from a defensive to an offensive position?
Yeah, I'd address that in two ways. Back in 2009, at least in banking and then later in insurance, many CDOs were appointed in response to the financial services crisis. So they needed somebody to work with regulators to oversee the quality of data and make sure there was data integrity. It was largely, almost entirely a defensive position then to satisfy regulatory and compliance efforts. What we've seen over the interceding decade is a movement to more offensive activities. In other words, being able to understand data to get insights into your customers, the markets, new product and services opportunities, how companies can become data-driven and establish more of a leadership position. Relative to the successful profile of a chief data officer, this is a question we ask each year, and there's been an evolution in the findings. So we basically cite 5 criteria and ask organizations which of these apply to them. One is an external change agent who brings an outsider perspective to the organization. Number 2 is a company veteran who knows the organization as an insider, understands the business. Third is a line of business executive that's had P&L responsibility. The 4th qualification is a data scientist or analytics leader. And the 5th is a technology executive that understands data management. So we asked organizations which was the most important of these criteria. And ironically, in 2018, it was almost an even split between an insider and an outsider, and then various results for the other classifications. By 2020, nearly half of organizations, 48.5%, reported that they wanted to see an external change agent who was bringing an outside perspective to the organization. And that was what they were seeing as the most critical factor in establishing a successful chief data officer. The second criteria, by the way, in 2020 was that 21.4% said that they were looking for somebody that had run P&L and was focused on business outcomes.
We're seeing, thanks Randy, we're seeing more and more of the change agent of change, external change agent being required in the community there. If I can ask, in your opinion, how does a company actually decide that they need to hire a CDO? What are some of the indicators that tell executives that they need to go out and hire a CDO?
Well, organizations are struggling to become data-driven. There's organizations that were born out of a digitally native environment or have data and analytics in their DNA. Examples of that would be organizations like Capital One in banking, and then organizations like American Express and MasterCard. But if you look at most major financial services firms, both banks as well as insurance firms, they tend to be legacy institutions that have legacy systems. So making the transformation to modern data architectures and becoming data-driven and forging a data culture represents a major challenge for these organizations, and it's a challenge that can only be addressed over time. So it's really a journey. And in 2020, personally have been a huge advocate for the role of the chief data officer, but we've really seen mixed results in terms of its execution and the ability of chief data officers to be successful in their roles. And we asked this question: has the CDO role been successful in your organization? And interestingly enough, only 27.9% answered that their organization was successful and the CDO role had been established within that organization. So that means the remaining 73% either indicated that the role was nascent and evolving, or they were struggling with turnover. We know that with several major banks and other financial services firms, some of those companies are on their fifth, sixth, maybe even seventh iteration of the chief data officer. We also know firms that have taken a break in terms of they haven't gotten the chief data officer role exactly right within those organizations, so they've taken a hiatus of a year or two without filling that role. So it's a journey, it's an absolutely needed role, but it's also a challenge. It's something new, and organizations successfully adopting new initiatives take time.